Good morning. So today this demonstration is to go over a couple things that you can do in Soundtrap and just to review how to edit audio in some basic ways, how to export your podcast once you're done, and where you can find all the login information for Music First. So let's start with accessing Music First. In all of your Teams pages, you should have this PowerPoint called Using Music First, which is the program that houses Soundtrap, which we're using for our podcast. When you open this PowerPoint, you will find directions for how to log in specifically. You cannot Google the login page, you must use the specific link in this PowerPoint. So once you have this and you've logged in, first name dot last name, music 2020 is the password. Don't worry about selecting your class, you're not going to need that. You just need to be able to log in. Once you've gotten into Music First, I highly recommend you bookmark it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my browser bar and look for a star or something that indicates bookmark. And I'm just going to call this Music First. And as you can see, I have a bookmarks bar enabled. So now, as you can see, Music First has been added to my bookmarks bar, which if you don't have one of these, you can right-click and make sure you're showing bookmarks bar, and I'm in Google Chrome for this, so it might look a little different depending on the browser that you're in. Once you're into Music First, all you need to do is click the button called Software, and then select Soundtrap. Once in Soundtrap, to create your podcast, you will enter Studio, and that will start a new project. Then select Podcast. There are several ways that you can add audio into your podcast. If you've recorded on another device and you have files saved already, you can find a way to get those files onto your computer, add new track, and then import those files. If you've recorded on your phone, I recommend plugging your phone into your computer to get those files off the phone, or emailing yourself those files and then downloading them from an email, which is something I do all the time with my chorus tracks. I send them to my Gmail. Another way to add audio into your podcast is to click Add New Track and then select Voice and Microphones. This will allow you to record directly into Soundtrap. Once you do this, you have to make sure that your microphone is allowed. Then when you start recording, you can say, "Hello, welcome to my podcast. My name is Mrs. Caprillion, and this podcast is for my protest music unit in music appreciation at East Windsor High School." Once you stop recording, you might need to click this X to get this box out of the way because the recording box does take up a lot of space. Once you hit X, you can see everything I said is over there. So now, let's say I want to zoom in. We can even say, let's pretend I made a mistake. And I'll record here. Today, the day of the week is Monday. The day of the week is Wednesday. So you can hear I purposely made a mistake by saying that the day of the week was Monday, and instead of stopping and redoing it, what I instead did was I paused for a second, and then I said the correct statement. So when you're speaking into your podcast, if you make a mistake, you can do this. So now what do we do with the mistake? Well, I'm going to take this purple cursor and I'm going to drag it to where I think the mistake is. And what I can actually do is listen to the whole clip. Today, the day of the week is Monday. So I can see that that was incorrect. And I have two options. I can either right-click and split the region, and then I can select this whole thing because it's a mistake and hit delete. Or, if I don't want to do that, I'm going to go back, I can actually hover my mouse over the bottom of this square and a little arrow appears and I can drag that arrow and it will delete it for me. Now let's say I accidentally deleted too much. It goes the other way too. You can drag that arrow back and it will extend what you've said. This moving arrow that you can slide back and forth comes in really handy when you're editing musical loops too. So let me actually show you how to add a loop and then we'll talk a little bit more about that. So for this, know that you can split your clips, you can slide them left or right, and you can slide the little arrow to cut mistakes out. So let's cut our mistake out. So now we're just left with the correct thing that I wanted to say. So for adding loops, again, you can import a file if you've recorded something on your phone or from another source, or you can add something from the loop library. which is a library full of preset musical loops. So I'm going to click Loop Library, and if you notice over here, this purple music note opens up. That's actually a shortcut to the Loop Library, so you can click it anytime you want. And I'm going to clear out everything, and you can search. There's thousands and thousands of loops here, so I'm just going to pick a random one. Sure, that's great. And I'm going to put it in, and I really want to hear what it sounds like with my voice talking. So we're going to go ahead, bring the cursor back to the beginning, and hit play. You can say, hello, welcome to my podcast. So I want to hear more of the music, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag to select these loops and slide them over. And I think I'll go here. You can say hello. Alright, so I don't really like that this audio quality isn't very good, and again, I'm recording this on my computer right now, so you'll notice the audio quality is not as good as perhaps a cell phone, but if you're using a cell phone, it's just more steps to get the files into Soundtrap. So I'm going to move this over, and then I've decided once I start talking, I really don't need to hear the music anymore, because it's just introduction music, so I'm actually going to take my cursor, I'm going to click this clip, see how it went dark purple. I'm going to make sure, whoops, we don't need that. I'm going to make sure that it's selected, and then I'm going to right click and split the region. And we don't need this, so I'm going to delete that. And one more thing I like to do, because I think it makes it sound really professional, I'm going to click edit, and I'm going to fade out. And you can kind of, if you hover over this, you see the fade appeared, you can hover over this dot, and then you can play around with how sharp do you want the fade to be, where do you want it to start. And I want it to start when I begin talking, so that the music and my voice aren't fighting each other. You can say, hello, welcome to my podcast. My name is Mrs. Caprellian. Now, let's say that you wanted the music to extend a little bit while you were talking. What you can do is hover over the loop, and remember how that sliding arrow will delete parts of a clip? It works the other way as well. So you can hover over the arrow, or actually, because it's a loop, you can hover over this, and you're just going to drag it out, and as far as you drag it, it will keep repeating. Now, if you had a song and you had cut some of the lyrics out, like let's say we had the Star Spangled Banner, and oh, say can you see, and we erased, we slid this and we cut out the word see. If I was to pull it out again, then I would get the word see back. So you can cut something, and then if you drag it the other way, it reappears. So that's just one option versus splitting the clip. So now make sure when you are done with your podcast, you've recorded everything you want, you have it edited the way you want, you should add exit music as well. And similarly to this fading out, I recommend that you do a fade in. So your talking will end, and then your music will come in. In music appreciation at East Windsor High School. The week is Wednesday. The music gradually takes over the voice. And actually, I noticed a mistake here. I see that my words were cut off a little bit. The word where I was saying today, the day of the week is Wednesday, that part isn't heard. So I actually, before I publish this, I want to fix that. So I'm going to drag this over a little bit. I'm going to take my sliding arrow, and I'm going to bring it this way a bit, and I should now get the whole sentence. At East Windsor High School. The day of the week is Wednesday. And there, I've taken a simple statement and I've made it sound a little bit more professional. Finally, let's talk about exporting your podcast. Once you're done, you're going to click this button here, Save. While you're saving, it takes a second because it's mixing all the sound together. The more tracks you have, the more mixing that it has to do. Don't forget to name your podcast. I made that mistake here. If you could, please put your name. Your last name is fine, or if you want your first name, last initial, and then the class period that you are in. And then you will save it. You'll see now that the podcast is done mixing and this arrow has appeared. You certainly can use this to download it fast, but what's actually probably going to work better for you is if you make sure to export it to the right file type. So if you hover over File, you scroll down to Export, and you're going to export this to an MP3. Oops, that says I have to save it because I changed the name. And then you'll see here I've downloaded this file into an MP3. So what I would then do next is I would go into Teams, I would go into the assignment, and I would attach my MP3 to my podcast assignment and click submit. Please do not email me your files, and please do not share through Soundtrap. It must be exported to be an MP3 attached into the assignment. Please reach out with any questions, and I hope this demonstration helped you.